Okay, so with Generation 26 coming out tomorrow, Nexon actually allowed me access to a test server so that way I can play it early to make this video. So we're going to be doing Generation 26 in 10 minutes or less. So continuing from part 1, we regroup with the squad and we realized we had some documents that Delga left behind and we read them over. And it turns out it's a map to a location. We immediately get a cutscene with Delga at that location mentioning that there's no one here and she was born at the wrong time yet again. From this, I gathered, maybe she's not just a human or a Militian, but a different race. So after tons of yapping about not having any leads, we decide to head to Vales because someone like the giant lord, the giant king, will definitely know what's up in an area. So after a bunch of yapping with the king and, the queen and pissing them off because our group of mercenaries is definitely not a formal group of people, we learned that they fought some of the divine beasts and they don't have a clue about where they went because they're just not showing up anymore. They just vanished off the face of the earth. No more divine beasts, no Delga. And so we get the clue that if they were traveling here, especially Delga, she would have probably got here via the port. So we make our way over to the port in the Vales area. So we end up talking to the captain that ferries people across the ocean to see, hey, have you spotted anyone that, has white hair, kind of looks like a giraffe? And she says maybe, but if you want that information, you gotta kill some bandits. So upon doing that, she says, hey, I actually don't know anything, but I did find this weird piece of snow white hair among our shipments, and that wasn't on the itinerary. So we take it and we head to the next area. We end up going to Philia. So to save some time here, we kind of do the same thing that we do in Vales. We talk to the leader, we go to the port, we talk to the person there, and then we get a new lead. So it points us to Admiral Owen, who says, they've been fighting the divine beasts here, but luckily they haven't been seen either. But guess who's in town? The good old Aces. So he gives us the location of the Aces so that way we can go talk to them. And this is a very long-winded conversation. So the key things that we learn here is that the stone outside of Dumbarton where you can actually, get the dungeon passes, that is the same stone or pieces of the same stone that Delga is using to transport around. And she can only transport in that area. That's why she can't transport an area, and that's why we haven't been seeing her. And that's how she's sneaking up on us. Now this magic stone is still very much a mystery and we don't really know much about it, but we do know that it's tied to the Shadow Realm. So we head to the rock to speak to the researcher who's working on the rock, and that gives us the dungeon passes. And he essentially, long story short, says that Delga is often seen going in and out of Math Dungeon. And way back in the heyday, there was a civilization of people that would actually live in the dungeons and that they weren't always called dungeons. So with that, we head on over to Math Dungeon. So we drop one of the stones that we had from Delga and we end up going through the dungeon. And as we're going through, we can actually hear some of her inner thoughts or memories that she's experienced. So we learn that the stone is actually the king of an old race. For some reason, he's been immortalized as a stone, and that's why, the stone has power. Now, at the end of the dungeon, there was no cool boss fight, but we get more of Delga's hair. With it, our group of mercenaries makes us craft a voodoo doll out of Delga's hair, and yeah, it's gross. So with that, Delga used to carry the exact same doll around all the time, and we realized, hey, maybe this is how we get into her home that is the dungeon. Once we load in, it's honestly just Delga standing in an ominous room, and then she kind of just yaps for a very long time about Militians intervening and causing the world to not properly flow the way it should, and the way she plans on stopping us is to turn us into a normal human. And she mentions that she has an item that is gonna break the borders of the Shadow Realm with the real world, so that way there's just a lot of shit popping off, essentially end of days. Wish I could summarize it better for you, but she just kind of doesn't shut up. And with that, it's another boss fight with Delga where we're just chasing her down the whole time, and it's kind of long. It's not hard, it's more so just tedious. I'd rate this like a 3 out of 10 in terms of a boss fight. The reason being is like you can't attack her. Like if you hit her, she's dead, so you gotta like walk up to her to like punch her. It's kinda, yeah. Upon beating her, she collapses and then like weird shit starts happening, and she says she can't control the thing that's gonna essentially rip the Shadow Realm and the real world into one entity, and shit starts happening, and then a giant demonic goose shows up from the first part, and then we gotta fight it. It's crazy. So after talking to the squad after killing the giant goose, we determined that it was best to speak to somebody that knows all about the Shadow Realm, Doran. She gets us to craft this little sundial thing that will pacify it for a bit. It's essentially a band-aid on a big wound. But after making it, we head into the Shadow Realm. So because of the Shadow Realm energy, essentially, dark erg, whatever you want to call it, that shit's bleeding out in force, so it's causing strain on our bodies and making Seafer sick. So we use the sundial on the thingy-majigger that Delka was trying to control to use as her power and to turn us into human, and we successfully pacified it for now. So with everything being under control again, we head back to camp to kind of relax, catch our breath, and get our bear. And then stupid Ain is like, what about Delga? What about Delga? So to save some time here, we all kind of split up to go look for her at some known locations that we've experienced throughout part 1. Plot twist, we don't find anything, so it was a pointless, 20 minutes that we did. So Ain goes to sit outside to be sad and mope about life and her long-lost friend Delga, and lo behold, she shows up. Now I want to say there is important information here, but it's really not. It's just a conversation between two friends that's like 20 minutes long. But it also just kind of reaffirms that Delga wants to stop all Militians because she thinks we're bad. Little did Delga know is we were listening the whole time, you silly little goose. After a long-winded bonding moment at the camp, we end up going to go see Etain to give her an update on everything and see if she knows anything. She doesn't, but she seems to recognize Seafer from somewhere, and they never met before, so that's an odd plot point I figured I'd mention here. So after that, we head to the castle to give the queen an update, and she says, okay, why didn't you update me sooner? And we fill her in on the situation at hand, and she essentially tells us, instead of working, why didn't you just claim some of the money I put aside for you? Because you're saving the kingdom, we're gonna pay you for that. But after speaking to the queen's right-hand finance advisor, they say in order for us to pay you, you need to be like an official formed mercenary group with paperwork to show for it, so that way we can pay you. So we head back to camp, and then we discuss a group name, and it is the Windfall Mercenaries. So like any good group of mercenaries, they need a post to set up at, a place to set up camp. And they're like, where the heck are we gonna do that? We can't stay in front of a dock area. Well, behold, we're like, hey, we have a whole new island that we just claimed. Why don't you guys come set up there? Welcome to Moonlight Island. And with that, that's the end of this generation. There is a post-credit scene, but I'm not gonna play that here. You play through the generation, experience it for yourself. So what do I think about the story? So far, the story is 10 out of 10. The pacing is phenomenal, okay? It's so good. The entire generation is only going to take you 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours, around that, for part 1 and part 2. They give you enough information to care about the characters, and enough information to get you information about the story without making it drawn out, without making you talk to 900 NPCs that honestly don't contribute to the story. Now, the gameplay for this generation is alright. There is a few instances where you fight monsters, but not a whole lot. I'd like to see more, but I'm not complaining. You're here for story, and you're getting that. And right now, it's just the start of the story, so I don't expect there to be like heavy conflict, and it seems like the story's setting up for big conflict in the future. Now, I'm sure all of you are wondering, is there any shitty mini games in this generation? No, none at all. There is no moment where I had to go on the wiki and find a stupid keyword that I capitalized in a certain spot and it's not working. Or just a random throwaway word that I would never expected to have to like write down or memorize. There is none of that here. It is 10 out of 10. You want a story? They give it to you. They say, here you go. Have fun, enjoy, sit back and relax. So far, this generation as a whole, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 just because it reminds me of the older generations from back in the day. And that makes me so happy. So happy. The group dynamic, you being the center of it, it's just so great. Now you might be wondering, if you love it so much, why are you only giving it an 8 out of 10? Well, here's the thing, buckaroo. This is like Star Wars. So this is like episode, 4, and we're waiting for 5 and 6 to see how the whole story pans out. As a whole, if that they come out with that and it's like 10 out of 10, absolute straight fire, just straight gas. I'm gonna bump this entire section of saga story to 10 easily. Anyways, I'm done rambling. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.